We're here on behalf of the people of Pennsylvania to recognize that many of the projects that we are advancing, many of the buildings you see going up, roads, bridges getting fixed, wouldn't have happened without the contributions of the Biden-Harris administration and our own Senator Bob Casey. We're going to hear from many of my colleagues are going to talk about things that they're seeing either on subject matter or in their areas, because there is a lot to talk about. But I want to point out just an overview. The Biden-Harris administration's infrastructure bill has meant a lot to the people of Pennsylvania. In that bill, along with Senator Casey's leadership, we've secured for Pennsylvania over $5.7 billion to fix roads and bridges, $900 million for bridge replacement and repair, $1.16 billion for public transit projects, over $100 million to plug orphaned gas and oil wells, and $270 million to clean up the abandoned mine lands, and over $1.6 billion for high-speed internet expansion in Pennsylvania. Now, those are big numbers. But what does that mean? That in communities throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because of Senator Casey's leadership and the Biden-Harris administration, in ordinary communities, folks are seeing safer pathways to go to school. Infrastructure is being fixed so that people can go back and forth to work better. In rural communities and urban alike, people are able to use high-speed internet. Those projects and many of the dollars that we give out here in the Commonwealth wouldn't be possible without President Biden's leadership and Senator Casey's leadership in the U.S. Senate securing those funds. We're going to be making some interesting choices in the upcoming year, and we just want to set the record straight. We have President Biden and Senator Casey have a record of delivering for the people of Pennsylvania. So we're going to hear from some of my colleagues for some of the projects that they have going on. And so first I'd like to call up Representative Justin Fleming.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Chairman Street. And I couldn't agree more. And I have seen this from two perspectives. Prior to joining the General Assembly, I was a local elected official right here in suburban Harrisburg in Susquehanna Township. And the funds that have been received through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, we've seen expansion of multimodal transportation, increased access for pedestrian transportation, bike transportation. And so any way you can think of to get around, we are making those investments. And then finally, really, I met with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation with my colleague, Representative Dave Madsen, recently, and they detailed extensive plans, some of which is already completed, to build out our capital beltway here in the Harrisburg region, Interstate 83 in particular, and we've already seen the great work and some of the improvements made right here in my district here in Dauphin County. If you go to the Jonestown Road area, the Colonial Park area, if you're coming up from 81 South from the West Shore in Cumberland County and Carlisle. So we've seen that. That is just phase one. That excellent construction is just phase one of a multi-phase approach to expand our capital beltway, make commuting easier and safer for residents in the capital area and in Dauphin and Cumberland counties and beyond. So this works. This Bipartisan Infrastructure Act is working. It is putting people to work with good paying union jobs, and I am here to support it. Both right now and in 2024, and the Biden-Harris administration, as we continue to look to improve the lives of commuters all around the capital region. So thank you so much for having me today. And next, I would like to bring up Representative. Oh, turn it back to Kip.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back because
Senator Street. Sorry.
Yeah, because unfortunately, we gotta jump around because I know some folks have to, particularly some of my colleagues in the House, they've got to get back to the floor shortly, and we want to respect that time. Representative Miller, come on up.
Thank you. Thank you, and I appreciate that as the majority whip. I got to get back on the floor. So I appreciate being here with it, and I want to thank the senator for bringing us together to talk about the difference that the Biden infrastructure bill has made here in Pennsylvania. The reality is this. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the Biden administration, to Senator Casey, and everyone who has brought opportunity to Pennsylvania. I come from Allegheny County. We have our share of bridges. We have our share of infrastructure needs. The reality of it is that Pennsylvania cannot lift it all by itself. So whether we are talking bridges, dams, or whether we are talking roads, or the internet, or our support for the public transportation system, the Biden infrastructure bill has made a difference and will continue to make a difference for years here in Pennsylvania. And the better thing, too, that comes with that is not only those investments that matter, not only those investments that make a difference in Allegheny County and throughout the state, but they also are employing Pennsylvania workers from one corner of our state to the other, and especially in our trades, who are doing so much of this good work. So I know from the House leadership side, and I know that we are proud to join with our colleagues here in the Senate. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you to President Biden, to Senator Casey, for delivering greater opportunity and good paying jobs, like, by the way, the hydrogen hub, which we know will benefit our friends in Philly a bit too, and some of our workers in the West. Thank you. This is just the beginning. This is going to make a difference, and it's changing lives.
Look, we're going to hear from folks from all over the state. We're going to start, as I mentioned, we're going to get through our members in the House because they've still got votes to cast today. But I want to bring up Representative Carol Kassim.
Good afternoon. My name is State Representative Carol Kassim of the 159th District, which is located in Delaware County. First and foremost, I want to thank the Biden and Harris administration and Senator Bob Casey for really investing in this bipartisan infrastructure law. I'm just more proud to know that we have $1.2 billion that is invested here in Pennsylvania for broadband. And that is important because I've seen the challenges in my district, especially in Chester City, without having access to broadband. High-speed internet is very necessary for Americans to do their jobs, participate in school, access health care, and stay connected. It's also necessary for our homes, our small businesses in Pennsylvania, who does not have access to high-speed internet infrastructure. This bipartisan infrastructure law provides affordable high-speed internet to everyone in America. The Biden-Harris administration worked with internet providers to offer high-speed internet plans that are covered fully by the Affordable Connectivity Program, meaning most eligible households can now get high-speed internet without paying a dime. I can assure you that this is working, especially in my district. I've seen hundreds of seniors, especially seniors, who's been coming into my office almost every month trying to receive this program, and they have all been accepted. So now I am asking for the support with my colleagues in Congress to now extend this program to 2024. Without the action of my colleagues in Congress, millions of Americans, like in my district, will lose their internet connection and the economic opportunities that do come with it. So thank you very much once again to Senator Bob Casey. I know I used to raise hell with him all the time about putting this as a priority. So thank you for putting my residents in your hand. Thank you.
From Pittsburgh to Philly, to the Capital Region, we've heard from folks. We're going to now hear from Representative Mary Isaacson.
Thank you. And as we said, we are one big state, and we have great representation on the federal level. And as you can see, we have great representation here on the state level. And it's a partnership from the presidency to our U.S. Senator, and making sure that the planes, trains, automobiles, boats, and everything else that's the infrastructure that runs this Commonwealth, that it is funded, it's going to be rehabilitated, we're going to invest in ourselves here in Pennsylvania, and we have our officials, especially Senator Casey, making sure he's delivering the bacon home to this state where we so dearly need to catch up on a lot of infrastructure that has been neglected over the years. I have I-95 throughout my entire district. Yes, we all remember I-95. Don't we, Senator? But I have the reconstruction of the I-95 going through my district. I also have the waterfront, and so I'm sandwiched in between the different ports. That is also an economic engine for everyone in this Commonwealth to get goods served. The infrastructure bill and funding that was delivered by the Biden-Harris administration with the assistance of Senator Casey, and certainly getting filtered through by our wonderful Department of Transportation here in Pennsylvania, is making sure they're setting us up for the future, and we can do nothing more but make sure that they are there and continue to deliver for Pennsylvania so we can spend the money. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from a gentleman who represents some of the same folks I do, Representative Steve Kinsey.
Good afternoon. I'm proud to stand here today with Senator Street and all of my colleagues in the House and the Senate as we mark a significant milestone in the journey of modernizing America's infrastructure. 2 years ago, President Biden signed a Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, a landmark piece of legislation that has since been transforming communities all across America. In Pennsylvania alone, the impact has been profound, with over $13 billion in funding from this law. We have identified here in Pennsylvania over 331 projects directly benefiting the lives of millions of Pennsylvanians. This includes a substantial investment in transportation, revitalizing our roads, bridges, public transit, and ports, and a significant allocation of dollars for clean water and water infrastructure. A highlight of our achievement in Pennsylvania is the $1.2 billion dedicated to high-speed internet connectivity. I'm sorry. And it's funny, I sort of, as I talk about connectivity, I chair the Human Service Committee in the House, and I can tell you that we have rural counties throughout Pennsylvania that have reached out to us talking about the need for that. Well, guess what, folks? Their need has been addressed. President Biden has heard them, and we have responded. So I want to say congratulations to those folks and congratulations here to what Pennsylvania is doing. However, this progress is not just about numbers. It's about real people, real communities, getting access to essential services that many people have taken for granted. It's essential to recognize that this progress didn't just happen overnight. 2 years ago, the Biden-Harris administration made a commitment to rebuild our nation's infrastructure, and President Biden and Vice President Harris have delivered. As we look towards the future, the success of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law stands as a testament to what we can achieve together. It is a cornerstone of what bipartisanship looks like when elected officials come together, work together on behalf of the people that we serve. Again, I want to thank Senator Street for bringing us together, and definitely want to give kudos and thanks to the Biden-Harris administration for making this happen for Pennsylvanians. Thank you.
Next, we're pleased and proud to introduce another gentleman who's been a long-time friend. He's chair of the Latino caucus in the House of Representatives, Representative Danilo Burgos.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Senator, and my colleagues. The bipartisan infrastructure plan is not going to benefit just big companies or big unions. It's going to benefit everyday Pennsylvanians, whether it's improving your internet access, improving our expressways or roadways, and improving infrastructure within our cities. Lord knows Philadelphia has too much lead in their pipes, too much lead in our schools. This funding is going to help us bring our infrastructure up to date as soon as possible and bring life-sustaining jobs to all of our communities, not to just one section of Pennsylvania. So thank you, Governor Casey. Thank you, President Biden and Vice President Harris.
So again, we want to thank President Biden, the Biden-Harris administration, and Senator Casey and their great leadership. Next, we're going to hear from Representative Nick Piscitano.
Thank you, Senator, and I'll be brief. Just to build on the comments made by a number of my colleagues, I have two quick examples. I serve as a member of the Pittsburgh Regional Transit Board, And not everybody thinks of transit as infrastructure, but it is a key tenet of how our folks get around in Allegheny County and across the state. And so this bipartisan infrastructure law, excuse me, will invest heavily in transit projects that wouldn't be possible otherwise, that help people get to their jobs, connect communities that were previously disconnected from the core job corridors. And so we're very grateful to Senator Casey and the President Biden for investing in those kinds of needs in Allegheny County. I also represent a number of mill towns in the Monongahela Valley, which created the steel that helped us win World War II. And these towns are over 100 years old, and they have 100-year-plus infrastructure. I'm currently working on a project to try and help one of my towns that only has 2,000 people replace their sewage pipes from 1906. And so a borough like that does not have the resources to do that on their own, and the federal government exists to help those boroughs make those necessary updates. Without the infrastructure law, that would not be possible. So those are just two quick examples in Allegheny County where I serve, where this will be monumental and really help our region continue to thrive in the future. So thank you.
And now we're going to hear from Representative Abigail Salisbury.
I want to talk to you today about miracles. We're not in a religious setting, but I want to talk to you about miracles because I hear a lot about miracles in my district. When I was council president in March of 2020 and half of our borough building fell down while people were inside of it, I was told it was a miracle that no one was killed. When part of Commercial Avenue subsided because the retaining wall let go, I was told it was a miracle no one was killed. When pieces of concrete fell off the Washington Avenue Bridge onto the railway tracks below, they said it was a miracle it didn't cause a train derailment like the one that we saw in East Palestine, Ohio. And perhaps most notably, I was told that when President Biden himself was visiting Pittsburgh and the Fern Hollow Bridge collapsed due to its poor quality and lack of maintenance over the many years that it had served, I was told many times what a wonderful miracle it was that no one was injured or killed so severely in that day. Miracles are wonderful. I'm a person of faith. I believe in miracles, but miracles are not a viable risk management system. What is a viable risk management system is investing in our country's infrastructure, and I'm so happy to say that that is what is actually being done across the United States and in Pennsylvania and in conjunction with our local government officials. So I look forward to the wonderful investments that we will be making in districts just like mine across the state so that I don't so heavily have to rely on miracles. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all of our colleagues in the House who came out today. We know that they had to get back and get the votes, and I appreciate the consideration of my colleagues in the Senate. We don't always let the House go first. But again, want to reiterate, Senator Casey, President Biden, Biden-Harris administration has secured hundreds of millions of dollars to fund, really billions, for Pennsylvania. Over $5.7 billion to fix roads and bridges, $900 million for bridge replacement and repair, $1.6 billion for public transit projects, $100 million for plug orphan gas wells, and $270 million to clean up abandoned mines. Over $1.16 billion for high-speed internet expansion. I now have the pleasure to introduce a gentleman who's from the city of Bridges, who happens to be the leader of the Pennsylvania Senate Democrats, my leader, Senator Jay Costa.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Street, and I'm pleased to be joined with my colleagues, our Transportation Chairman, Senator Marty Flynn, who you'll hear from, and Senator Jimmy Dillon, who dealt with the I-95 issue, and certainly Amanda Capoletti, Senator from the Montgomery County region, who also recognizes the value of this important legislation that the federal government has provided us. I, too, want to say thank you to President Biden, Vice President Harris for the work that was done, along with the congressional delegation out of Washington, D.C. that supported this measure, and certainly, last but not least, Senator Bob Casey for his leadership, working to ensure that we were able to put together resources to make the investments that my colleagues from the House talked about and Senator Street just enumerated for all of you. When you think about it, I'm going to build upon what Representative Salisbury talked about. One aspect of this is safety, safety with regard to our roads and our bridges and our highways. Safety with respect to our rail, what needs to take place along those lines. Having a region in the Commonwealth where we have tremendous number of goods being transported across our region on the rails, and many times toxics as well. Having a clean and clear and strong rail system in place is extremely important, and that's what we saw, certainly what took place in East Palestine, Ohio as well. We have to make certain that we have that. The internet, access to the broadband. Think about it. 40 or 50 miles outside my region, I live in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, and we're blessed to have a wonderful internet system in that regard. But 40 or 50 miles away, I remember just a couple years ago, we were in Indiana County doing a hearing, our technology committee, and the students from Indiana had to go to the school. When they were assigned homework assignments, they had to come back to the school in the evening to get access to the internet because it wasn't available there. In other parts of rural Pennsylvania, what's taking place in the deployment of broadband is extremely important and would not have happened but for these investments in Pennsylvania. When you think about the bridges that we talked about, Fern Hollow in my district, a few blocks from where I live, was a dramatic step forward in terms of what was being done. That would not have happened, and would not have happened in a short time frame without the support and the investments were made through this Infrastructure Act that's taken place. So we're very, very fortunate along those lines to be able to do it. But it's about safety. It's about bringing quality of life to people, whether it be internet access or many other safety provisions in rail and the like. But it's also recognizing the number of jobs that are being created through this process. We're putting people to work in Southwestern and all across Pennsylvania. That's extremely important. And last but not least, on the transit side, Allegheny County has a strong, robust transit system. When you think about what we're doing in Pittsburgh right now, we are connecting the second and third largest economic generating communities in the Commonwealth. The city of Pittsburgh itself, downtown, and the Oakland community of Pittsburgh. The second and third highest economic generating communities in the Commonwealth. We are making a line, bus rapid transit, so we can communicate and traverse folks back and forth in a quick manner to be able to have access to both the educational centers in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh, as well as the healthcare delivery system that exists there, connecting it to our downtown Pittsburgh, and further connecting it to all the communities around the Pittsburgh region to be able to have folks have access to employment there. But for this legislation, that would not be taking place in Pennsylvania. So it's about jobs, it's about health, it's about safety, and it's about quality of life. That's what's so important. That's why I'm really pleased to be here, and I want to thank Senator Street for bringing us together, House and Senate members, to talk about the anniversary of the Infrastructure Act, and look forward to having more implementation along those lines of high-quality projects to be able to do those things. So thank you very much, Senator Street.
Next, we're going to hear from a gentleman who's from northeastern Pennsylvania, up in Cartwright territory. He's also the chair of the Transportation Committee of the State Senate, Democratic Chair Marty Flynn.
Thank you, Senator Street. We're here on the second anniversary of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act 2023. A lot of people in the past, over the past 10 years, have talked about doing an infrastructure bill, being for infrastructure. Senator Casey, President Biden delivered on that promise. They delivered a bipartisan infrastructure act that put trillions of dollars into our aging infrastructure, and it's going to bring it into the 21st century, in Pennsylvania especially. You know, over the next 5 years, we're going to see $13.8 billion infused into our economy. As my colleagues have talked about, not only the infrastructure in roads and bridges, we talked about internet access to areas that don't have it. But let's not forget, too, this also invests millions of dollars into electric vehicles, EVs. It sets up an infrastructure to bring Pennsylvania and to have a network that brings us into the 21st century when it comes to EV vehicles and charging stations, which are going to be important on making a carbon impact on our environment and nationwide. So it's a huge, huge undertaking. As a minority chair of transportation in the Senate, I'm honored to help be a steward of the taxpayers by putting this money that comes down from the federal government into these projects. You know, in Pennsylvania, we have thousands of bridges, thousands of miles of road, and it truly is an honor to work on this and to actually deliver on. This is a once in 3 generations investment into our infrastructure. You know, people don't like to talk, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not a sexy topic, you know, but it's infrastructure but you see the people working, you see the bridges going up, you see the people being employed by this. Trillions of dollars are going into this, and hundreds of millions, billions in Pennsylvania are putting people to work, are getting people's communities safer, making our roads and bridges built up again, and bringing us into the 21st century, which is a huge deal, and I'm honored to be part of that. So thank you, President Biden. Thank you, Senator Casey and Congressman Cartwright.
Earlier, Representative Salisbury and Senator Costa talked about miracles. One of the great miracles of the infrastructure happened right in our next speaker's district. I'm going to proud to present my colleague from Northeast Philadelphia and a man who witnessed a miracle that the Biden-Harris administration, along with Senator Casey, helped make possible. And I present to some and introduce to others, Senator Jimmy Dillon.
Thank you, Senator Street. Thank you to my colleagues for being here. You know, it's wonderful to be a part here to celebrate the second anniversary of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. I'm not here just today to mark the occasion, but to honestly give a hands-on approach to the highlight of the real impact that it had in my district on the I-95 project. Firstly, a heartfelt thank you to Governor Shapiro and Transportation Secretary Mike Carroll for their leadership during the I-95 crisis last June. Their collaboration with local and federal partners ensured my constituents' safety, and the amazing recovery we witnessed, where we reopened 6 lanes of I-95 in just 12 days. This achievement was a true team effort. It was made possible by the support of the Biden administration, Senator Casey, and even Congressman Brendan Boyle from Northeast Philly as well. Their efforts secured millions of dollars in federal funding to offset the cost of the restoration work. The early concern about year-long projects slowly became unfounded. With effective leadership, wonderful commitment from union labor, and the smart infrastructure spending, we're on track to complete the new bridge and reopen the northbound interchange as early as 2024. This quick turnaround sets a precedent for what we can achieve with the right approach. And I-95 is just the tip of the iceberg for what the infrastructure law can achieve. Far too many roads and bridges in Northeast Philly and across Pennsylvania urgently need repair. Over 3,000 bridges and over 8,000 miles of highway are considered in poor condition across the Commonwealth. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law means the success we had at 95 can and will spread to every corner of Pennsylvania. Thanks to this investment, we can do more than repair what's broken. We can build the foundation of a stronger, safer, and more connected Pennsylvania for our children and our children's grandchildren. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you again, Senator Street, and I'm glad to be a part of a great team here in Pennsylvania. Thank you.
With no further ado, a champion on so many issues, who's here to also celebrate the work and the infrastructure we've been able to build thanks to the leadership of President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Senator Casey, my colleague, Senator Amanda Capoletti.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Senator Amanda Capoletti. I represent parts of Delaware and Montgomery counties. As you heard, it was under Democratic leadership that Congress was able to pass the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law that was signed by President Biden 2 years ago. I'm actually going to hit a little bit specifically on what Chairman Flynn was talking about with the electric vehicles, because in addition to providing investments that you've heard all of my colleagues talk about, from ports, airports, railroads, bridges, all of those things, the thing I'm most proud of is the significant investments that this law makes in tackling climate change. It's the most that our nation has ever seen. And here in Pennsylvania, we've already benefited from these sustainability initiatives that also work to lessen inequalities that exist in our society. To date, Pennsylvania has been allocated $1.2 billion to improve public transportation options all across the Commonwealth. This funding will expand healthy, sustainable transportation options in Pennsylvania, where non-white households are 5 times more likely to commute via public transportation. Students and communities are also benefiting from the law. Schools in Pennsylvania have been awarded $34.6 million through the Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus Program. And communities in Pennsylvania were awarded over $103 million for a similar clean transit bus and improved bus service program through the Department of Transportation. Their program called Low and No Emissions Bus and Bus Facilities Programs. Equally as exciting is the approximately $421.6 million that has been allocated to Pennsylvania for clean energy, energy efficiency, and power programs. These investments are aimed at weatherizing our homes, progressing our state energy program, and preventing power outages and increasing the resiliency in our power grid. We've also got a significant investment, as you heard, into the EV program, electric vehicle program, and infrastructure here in Pennsylvania to put charging stations all throughout Pennsylvania to make it easier for those who have electric vehicles to find charging stations. And every one of these investments will result in larger, positive ripple effects that improve the health and well-being of our communities all across the Commonwealth. And I'm hopeful that in the state legislature, specifically in the Senate, we can build on this progress, because I would be remiss if we did all of this and we thanked President Biden and Vice President Harris, Senator Casey, and all of our Congress people who helped get this across the line. We thank them for everything we did, and we would do them a disservice if we didn't have a call to action at the end of this. Because I've introduced a bill with Senator Katie Muth called Go 100 Pennsylvania, which takes bold action to tackle climate change by positioning our Commonwealth to transition to 100% renewable energies by 2050. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law gets the ball rolling on this effort. You have heard so many different ways that we are investing into green and clean energy and clean water systems through this law. So now is the time that the state needs to get together and pass legislation that finishes the job. But we need leadership in the Senate who is committed to taking bold action and setting Pennsylvania up for success and protecting our homes, our health, and our environment, just as we saw our federal government do 2 years ago. While I'm doubtful that these values guide the majority party in the Senate, I will continue to keep reminding them how vital it is for our future and our children's future that we get the job done. We finish what Vice President Harris, what President Biden, what Senator Casey, and all of our Congress people started, and we keep America's infrastructure getting greener and cleaner. Thank you.
Look, I want to thank all my colleagues for joining us. Remember this, if you ride the bus, then you got to thank President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Senator Casey. If you are driving down a road or going over a bridge, make sure you thank President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Senator Casey. If you're using the internet, and for all of our young folks out there who love to surf the internet, make sure that you thank President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Senator Casey. If your kid goes to a school that's got lead and asbestos coming out of it, make sure you thank President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Senator Casey. There are a myriad of other things, and from local communities to big cities across this Commonwealth, rural, urban, and from one end of the state to the other. President Biden, Vice President Harris, Senator Casey have delivered, and Pennsylvania Democrats, whether they be in the House or the state Senate, we thank our entire congressional delegation, all those Democrats who fought. It is a bipartisan bill, but it was all the Democrats and a couple of Republicans who got it done. And we want to make sure that we thank those who really led, and that's why we acknowledge the great work that was done and understand there's more yet to come. With that concludes our press conference. We'll take any questions if there are any. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Hearing none, seeing none. Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.